Afterneath Retrospective.
First of all, I have no clue what all these things say, like drag and all these things. But I played with it for a little bit, and now I use this a lot.
This pedal is different because it sounds unlike anything. This literally is like a $1,500 piece of outboard gear in a pedal.
なんかね、最初にこれを試した時に、おそらく都内の楽器屋さんだったのかな、ちょっと覚えてないですけど、その時に3曲くらい一挙に浮かんだのかな。で、あ、これはいいと思って。
I use it for what this graphic illustrates. Like when you need that, you reach for this.
Yeah, it's a little chaos machine, really.
So whenever I talk about sometimes pedals are happy accidents and things like that, when people ask me questions, this is the pedal that I'm talking about. It's the only happy accident, really. I was just kind of tearing apart some already finished reverb code, just trying to see what would happen like if I made delay times longer. I think I'd been working on it for a couple of days, just kind of going in and hacking it apart. And I don't know, I stumbled across the algorithm that it is right now, but that's not all there was to it. It's got kind of a pretty interesting signal path in there. And that combined with just sort of hacking away blindly at the code and seeing what happened, kind of made this super huge reverb sound. It's pretty much exactly what it is now. It's just a little bit more wild and a lot more pingy. And like the working file for that for about half a year was just big reverb. That's what I have to go look for every time I try to go back to it. And that's just what it sounded like. I feel like it didn't become the Afterneath until I made, the clock, the drag control. feel like the first time everybody heard it, it blew their minds. Like everybody was into it. It was kind of unanimous. Like I thought it was cool right away, and I was very excited about it. And everybody I showed it to was like, "Wow, that's awesome."
I think the first time I played it was in the shop that day, once he'd gotten it assembled. And it was one of those situations where he'd kind of explained it to me, explained the premise of it, and just totally like being but not actually understanding what he was saying. But hearing it, it was like, oh man, this makes sense, you know? And I remember being really blown away and excited to figure out how it worked, but having no initial idea of what it was actually doing. That's what I remember.
Afterneath doesn't make any sense. Made up word. You know, it's got a wizard and a cave on it. It's sort of fake glow in the dark. It seems like it makes total sense. I actually still have this text message somewhere. I was talking to my friend Mason Stoops at NAMM, and I was trying to write underneath, and it came out as Afterneath. I don't know. And I think I even said I'm going to save it for a pedal.
I mean, I remember it differently. I remember it, I swore that it was in person that Jamie said it. I swear it was like day 3 of NAMM or something, day 4, so everyone's like super, super tired. And Jamie and I talking over all the sound of the NAMM floor, and it being like something along the lines of like, yeah, we're going to go to this bowling party, but we'll probably go to the hotel Afterneath. And me being like, yeah.
Seems fitting, though. It seems like a fitting name. It makes sense to me.
It was an interesting time in my EarthQuaker career because I had, in the spring before, is when I had been taken from production and gotten the position as the, you know, kind of office assistant, sales assistant, customer service manager, all of the things. The first person to basically come in and help Jamie and Julie. So basically there was a production room on one side, and then it was Jamie, Julie, and I in the other room. And that was in spring of 2014, and then we released the Afterneath in around September, I think. And we did releases differently back then. We put the video out first and then let people pre-order before it was actually released. And I remember just watching the like video view count on YouTube just explode. I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was like unprecedented compared to anything we'd done before. And we were just like, oh crap, this is like gonna be a real deal.
Of all the pedals that we've put out, that was probably the biggest turning point for EarthQuaker. It's the first time that we really couldn't keep up with demand for a pedal. I mean, people flipped out when they saw the YouTube demo for it that we put up. I mean, like I said, I don't really think there's anything else like it. There's 1.5 billion reverbs. There's 1 billion giant ambient reverbs out there, and you know, I don't know. I just haven't heard anything that sounds like it.
I think Jamie has a unique approach to the way he designs things. You know, he didn't go to school for engineering, so a lot of his design is self-taught, and he does things outside of the box anyway. And there's some of his designs that if he did go to school for engineering, he would say like, you know, I can't do it that way, or you shouldn't do it that way, or he'd be listening to that voice inside of his head. But because he doesn't have that background, kind of anything goes, and he's been able to kind of bend circuits and tweak circuits by ear in a way that I think a lot of people, you know, haven't been able to do that have gone to school.
そういうのをちゃんとなんかジェイミーとかがなんつうかな、ちゃんと自分が欲しいもの、自分たちが欲しいものっていうのを作ろうと思って作ってるってやっぱすごく感じますね。だから多分そういうのは多分ミュージシャンとか に伝わってるんじゃないですかね。要するに、誠心誠意、これが自分が思う素晴らしいものだっていうのをちゃんと提示してもらってるっていうか、なんかその、中途半端じゃなくて、そういうのはやっぱ、多分みんな感じ取ってるから多分みんな使ってるんだと思いますけど。
I think the biggest confirmation that people liked it outside of the shop is that we had to start hiring people specifically to keep up with demand for the Afterneath. That's around the time where we like hired 8 people in one day. It's a huge reason why EarthQuaker grew, I think, pretty quickly in like recent years.
My memory of all of that is really poor, I'm realizing. I couldn't even remember like what year it came out. I don't remember like how the shop was arranged. I remember that it was at the old shop. I remember that it wasn't here. Yeah, but a very foggy memory of that entire time.
I'm gonna pause for a second, so I still have work to do while you ask me stuff. I didn't remember the amount of people being hired at that point, but I do remember during that year, like a lot of new people coming in and us restructuring our production floor, we felt big when we moved in, and then it started immediately feeling really small. And I think it's all attributed to the Afterneath. I mean, at that point we had made the Rainbow machine, and we had the hoof, and we had like the Dispatch Master was popular, but the Afterneath I think really elevated the company in a way that we hadn't anticipated.
Do I look handsome?
Look good, man.
Would my mom be proud? We're headed to the old shop, which is the new practice space. The old shop where I first started, where the Afterneath was designed. I was hired, I think, in 2014, September. It was around the Afterneath invention, right before the release. They essentially said they're hiring me for the Afterneath because it kind of blew up bigger than they thought it was, and they needed more people. This is it. This is the old shop, but now it's the practice space. So when I was sitting over here, next to the right next to the bathroom, everyone would use this orange spray. We had this like orange peel spray to like mask up the scent of, people taking shits in the only room we had to take shits. And it didn't really cover it up, it just added to it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that was maybe a hazing, or I was new, so they were like, well, he's not going to complain, we'll just sit him over there by the bathroom. That's probably the thing I remember the most, honestly, about working in here. And we all just sat at the same like long ass table. I remember Fedge was down there. And he would test, and when he would test, of course, it was an amp in this little room, so that's all you could hear. And then shipping was like in the middle, and it was just like this big thing in the middle where we did all the shipping, and then there's people just like all around, crammed, It's probably a good like 16 of us in here trying to work. So this is like the fringe candidate stuff. In the back room, the offices, that's where Relaxer practices / where the EarthQuaker videos happen. And then we practice like over here, just piles of stuff. So we like pack up our drums and everything afterwards. So yeah, I never left this place really. But it's weird to think that it's work. I spend so much time here that it's weird to think that, there's 20 people crammed in this little space.
ターニースでしか出ない音ですよね。なんか。これ以外にないというか、もうなんか、多分リバーブですよね、これね。はい、リバーブなんですけど、なんか、リバーブ使ってるってのも、アフターニースオンにするっていうか、もうなんか、僕らのセッティングって基本的にリバーブに一番最初にリバーブが一番最初に入ってるんですけど、でも、それってもうなんか常時かかってるような感じのリバーブなんですけど、それプラスもう一個空間、スペースを作りたいときに、アフターニース使うって感じですかね。もう本当独特ですね。
ですね、僕の印象は、グランドピアノを弾いてるサスティン、美しくて、響きが豊かな、グランドピアノ的なサウンドだなとは思ってて、ただ、もともとこれを使いたいなと思ったのは、いつも僕たちはその、20年近くシカゴでスティーブ・アルビニとレコーディングしてるんですよ。で、テープを使ったフルアナログレコーディングなんですね。で、よっぽどの僕らからの強いリクエストがない限り、その後で、ミックスダウンの時に後でリバーブ処理をしたり、デジタルのディレイをかけたりっていうことは絶対もうありえない。基本はそのライブと同じ演奏してそのまま撮るってスタンスなんで。で、アンプ自身にはその指向性の違う2つのオンマイクを撮るんですけど、10メートルぐらい先にそのルームマイク1個置いてあるんですよ。で、僕らのレコードはその客席から見たままのポジション、パンポットっていうか、ポジションでアルバムを作ってるんで、客席から見たら僕が右で、彼のヨーダのギターが左なんですけど、ドラムとかベースやらストリングスが入った後はいいんですけど、入るまでの空間がオンマイクだと割と広がりがない状態なんですね。だから、さっき言ったルームマイクを、例えば僕のギターにルームマイクをかける場合は、僕のギターのゴーストとして、こうか。だから、左側に、ヘッドホンで聞くとわかるんですけど、右側のギターに対してルームマイクを左に置く。っていうようなやり方をやってたんだけど、ヨーダ側にも僕側にも、いい意味でのルームリバーブが単体でかけれるようになったんで、単純なリバーブを使って、いわゆるリバーブサウンドですではなくて、圧倒的に個性的な、ルームアンビエントを含んだ一つの音が作れるようになったのはこのおかげですね。
Yeah, the Afterneath pedal makes me feel like I'm in some like dark, wet cave or space or basement or something. Whereas it's kind of, the pedal's more happening to you, like you're entering into the space of the pedal instead of you kind of dictating what the pedal does and says, which is kind of more like other reverbs where I feel like I'm a little bit more in control of it. And the Afterneath is a little bit more like a space that I've walked into. I like using the Afterneath pedal when I'm playing solo guitar pieces or recording solo guitar pieces because it's kind of laying out this atmosphere for me that I can kind of use my other reverbs on top of, but the Afterneath is always kind of floating above me or beneath me depending on where I put the drag or the mode. So yeah, it kind of leaves this really nice blanket or carpet for what else I want to play, especially when I'm just playing by myself.
Hearing reverb, and especially the Afterneath, through the harp for the first time was totally mind-blowing to me because, it completely opens up a whole new world of sound exploration, of sonic manipulation, and taking the instrument to a place that, normally it's not really found. So it definitely was really exciting for me and really inspiring to know that now these beds of sounds can be created and this world can be opened up from my normal, playing with the strings just decaying. So it was really cool to be able to use all the different settings, change the length, change the decay, change the, all the different amazing options that Afterneath has. And through the harp, like I said, it made me feel completely like in another planet, another world, and was really, really inspiring. And today, I use it in like literally almost everything I do. I use it in my own music, I use it in films, I use it in shows, I use it wherever I play. I always have it there, and it's been a great, amazing, amazing tool to change the way that the instrument is heard.
Yeah, I don't know where the art for the current version is. It's MIA. All right. Yeah, it's hard to say. I would guess when the Afterneath came out, I was still building pedals as well. I'm pretty sure. Most of the time he just has the name, he tells me the name and what it is, what kind of pedal, and I go from there. I brought him the sketch, and he suggested that we should put a brim on the hat of the wizard because it looked a little bit too much like a Ku Klux Klan member. So that was a good choice. That's why he's the art director. Well, this is the art. That's the art for the original version. I filled in all the blacks digitally, obviously. So that's it. That's the final art for the original version. V1 and V2, I guess. I think I did pull up a couple sketches. Some other stuff from the Afterneath t-shirt I did. Oh, here's the adaptation for the Zodiac pedal. I forget which one that is, too. Christmas card Afterneath. Oh, here's some sketches. So there's another idea of trying to do the cave. Yeah, so I had the idea for the cave, and I tried to do it a little more involved at first, but then you see this little one here, kind of tried to strip it down to just silhouettes. There might be another sketch in here too. But I think I kind of had the idea pretty quickly. Yeah, because then there's the revision after those initial sketches. So I pretty much was already on it right there. I think that's the one I showed Jamie, and he said we should add a brim to that hat. Yeah, because it was this big cavernous delay, and everybody was excited about the fact that you could kind of let it be a forever delay. It just keep going and blooming and blooming and blooming. Or you could play it like a traditional reverb or delay. But that big cavernous, spooky space sound was what I was thinking about for sure. It's definitely one that has, it led to the t-shirt and other stuff. And then the comic book, the Octoskull comic, where the end of the first issue, they end in the Afterneath, which then expanded on that idea, this big magic cave that has floating mountains and cities, and it's such a huge cave you can't even really see the bottom or whatever, and there's clouds and weather systems inside this entire dimension that is in a cave. So yeah, it's that whole storytelling aspect that comes through of it, just with some stalagmites and a wizard. Oh yeah, that's the cover for issue 2, which is already, yeah, so they're in the Afterneath here. That's the Dream Crusher up there. Legacy pedal. And some other characters and things that we haven't seen yet. Yeah. Oh yeah, it goes through the spatial delivery to get to the Afterneath. The spatial delivery delivers into the Afterneath. So there's the final page, final double page splash of sea. You see all the floating islands, and here's the Dream Crusher. And the spot, well, no, those aren't the spires. That's the prison back there. But yeah, see, there's whole planets and moons inside of here. Dragons, little Stonehenge type deal. Octopus chilling out. Bit Commander and Octoskull with the tentacle. I forgot he acquired that somewhere along the way as well. Let's see if I find the color version, because Chris O'Halloran, who colored the Octoskull comic, did an amazing. Here it is. Uh-oh. It broke the computer. Oh, there it is. Yeah, look at that. I think just the name Afterneath made me think of a cave, a magic cave. I think that's part of it. There's a little bit of a story in there. Where's that wizard going? What's this cave? What kind of powers does he have? That kind of stuff.
I'm really generally not a very visual listener. Like, I am picturing, what does the plugin setting look exactly like? What o'clock on my amp did I turn my reverb to? I'm not thinking about like what space I'm trying to recreate. And I think this pedal forces me to think that way. The spread is very, it just really sounds like it's resonating from somewhere. And maybe that's the, the wizardry of the copywriting behind it and the visuals. But I really, there's something very multidimensional about it in a way that other reverbs I've used in the past don't accomplish for me.
Hi, I'm Krista Ebert. I am the Uno Lady, and you are in my home studio. So y'all asked me to write a song with this pedal, and at first I tried to write a song with lyrics about the pedal, but it wasn't. It's a little too cheesy, so I ended up just creating an aria with it, and it really shows off the ways you can harmonize with yourself. To write the song, I kind of just spent a lot of time singing through the pedal. So maybe even just a few hours, just finding the pattern that felt the most natural, that showed the different ways I can make this pedal sound. And so I came up with 2 arias that I really appreciate, but I could probably write an improv aria every day with this pedal. It's really inspiring. To create a song, I layer many vocal layers so that it creates one lush soundscape. So I'll run it through and I'll loop it on my loop pedal, and then I also record it on Logic Pro. And I can hit play now and show you about like halfway through the one aria loop. It starts to sound like this. Right there's probably about 8 layers of vocals. I have this set in various ways on each of those layers, and then the blips and bloops and bleeps are made by using this drag knob. I think that it can relay so many different moods, so it's simultaneously uplifting and melancholy. I can harmonize with myself with it, and I can just make so many different sounds with just this one pedal.
There's a cadence that provides buoyancy, like being carried by and held high in adulation by a complex network of ants. If I were tiny, sometimes one chord is all it takes. And those clouds begin to tear and stretch and tread against the sky. And some sort of systematic expression. Most of what I'm hearing is gonna live on for forever. But some of it reaches the outer lip of space and curls back toward me. And that place where those currents collide, like two weather systems, where they're both coming and going at the same time, there's this gorgeous sphere of chaos that happens, and it expands like little tiny stars exploding, and I get to stand on each and every one of them as they dissipate back into nothingness, writhing into oblivion. I first heard of Afterneath when it was new. That would have been 6 or 7 years ago. But I do recall specifically Andy from Pro Guitar Shop playing Portishead. And he was sounding really good. You know, he always does. And I left that with Cocteau Twins vibes. And anything that's pointing in that direction, I'm going to squint my ears at more than just a little bit. EarthQuaker devices and reverb. What could be bad about that? Add to that, you know, your best Cave of Forgotten Dreams graphic, and we all win.
With guitar, the EarthQuaker devices pedals are, I think their main marquee feature is the fact that it inspires new writing and new ideas. I use the Afterneath on a lot of tracks, actually. I run it through vocals all the time because it's so versatile. You can build a space. If you want a spooky sort of pre-reverb, reverse reverb send, you can do that. If you want just like a subtle little like tube amp type of reverb, you can do that. And I think that's the most fun that I've had with the Afterneath is playing with the settings and all the knobs,
because you can really trip over some surprising sounds and then double back to focus on it and write with that.
For some reason, I'm drawn to all these harmonics, zooming off into what sounds like a sepulcher. The weird thing about reverb and me is that I don't always use reverb. In fact, I quite often completely eschew reverb, and I think that reverb is kind of a crutch for a lot of guitar players. And as soon as they play anywhere, they have to have their reverb on. So I basically started not using reverb, except when I thought it was absolutely musically part of what I was hearing. And I think that comes from my, I guess, thinking about it in terms of recorded music. So how I've heard reverb used on various recordings, sometimes very psychedelic recordings. The reverb can come and go, or go in blasts and then disappear and get dry again. And I'm really interested in that. And so I would have, for example, and it doesn't click really loud, which is great about this on-off, is just go from, and then, and just wait, and in that way honor the idea and the sonic signature of what we call reverb. So I like to make it come and go in a way, and make it stronger and weaker rather than just have it on all the time. My Afterneath pedal, which is residing in Brooklyn, where I live, has little bits of orange gaff tape all over it, because I found the setting that I really, really liked. And the reason I started using it with this particular setting was to supplant my use of a tape delay sound, which I use on an old Chaos pad, Chaos 2. And I didn't want to drag my Chaos 2 onto these gigs. I didn't know if I'd have a place to set it up. Didn't know exactly what kind of music I was going to play. But I like to put it after my looping device, my old 16-second digital delay, and then have it, the loops or anything else I'm playing, go off into this sort of layer of sort of like a pre-echo and then long chambers, and I could just increase the mix of that and not change too many of the other settings, and get this very nuanced and completely altered sound for my loops, and have it sound spacier, which I think is what I like about the Afterneath, is its ability to easily, but also in a diverse way, create spacey, very sort of enveloping sounds, reverbs, delays, that work for me I guess in a conventional sense, you'd say like it's a cool reverb. But because it had these other sort of wafts within wafts, I could use it instead of my tape delay sounds. And I dig it. And then of course it's small, which in New York means a lot.
When I listen to music, my ear gets drawn to the things that are different more so than the things that are the same. So I like to be unique in my mixing, and unique in the records I work on, and I try to create a record that sounds unique, and the guitar pedals along the way have really been an asset for that. fast forward, my dear friend Vice Cooler, we've done a lot of stuff together. He's a great producer, and we started our relationship by doing a Peaches record, and some of the sounds he was getting were just amazing, and a lot of those sounds came from pedals and stuff. And then we did Louisa, one of my favorite artists we've worked with also, besides Peaches, same thing. So fast forward, I'm hanging out with Joe Barresi, the incredible Joe Barresi, Chevelle, Tool. His mixing and his quality as a human being have no equal. And so whenever you compliment Joe, he gives it to you. Whatever you complimented, he gives it to you. And I complimented his reverb, and I thought it was amazing. And so he gives it to me. In fact, I have the original one right here, probably on the last setting that I used. So if you can see this on camera, this would be a good setting to emulate. But this is the one that started it off for me, and I really fell in love with this pedal. What did I fall in love with? The uniqueness of it. And a lot of the times I'll take another pedal called Pitch Bay and run that into this. When I use these EarthQuaker pedals, I tend to use one into another, sometimes 3 at a time, and you get some really unique sounds.
This is a company called EarthQuaker Devices, and this is a new box.
A lot of knobs.
And
that's good.
This is one of those things where you might play through it while you're tracking, but this is like a piece of outboard gear to me. This is when I'm mixing and I'm totally stagnant and I've got no creativity happening. I just know I need to put something in this mix. A lot of times I'll just pull this pedal out and reamp some stuff through it. And this has created harmonies on vocals. It's created harmonies on guitars. It's just one of these things that it does such weird stuff that's so cool. It's almost a long delay and a reverb together, like a
But it has pitch stuff too?
Yeah, it's got pitch stuff too. Well, I mean, I play a lot when I'm reamping, so I'll pump a vocal through it when I'm mixing and start tweaking knobs and re-record the output of this on multiple tracks, and then I'll just start fizzing through it. But this is an inspirational piece also. It's not only could fit on your pedal board, but it sits on the console when I'm mixing.
Wow.
It's a great box. They make a lot of cool pedals as well.
Make a note about this, Leandro. I'm gonna get one of these Afterneath EarthQuake Devices.
Yeah, that's a great box. Dave and I are friends, and Dave is the first and foremost, who shares everything with the world. I mean, you can get on Pensado's place and in 5 minutes learn some amazing tricks from a guy who's made great records. And he's also a super great dude. So when I told him about this pedal, I was like, you need to have one of these. And it doesn't matter if you work in or out of the box. I mean, just Dave uses his ears. I think that's the beauty of it. And, handing this over to Dave and saying, have fun. I mean, I'm super happy. I know he called me and said he loved it and he was inspired by it. So it's kind of cool that you're kind of passing, you're passing a means of inspiration to other people. A long time ago, Juan Alderete called me up and said, hey, I've got some friends in town and they got some cool pedals. You should really check it out. Can you meet me at the studio? So I came in at night, and that's when I first met the EarthQuaker people. And they unloaded a couple pedal boards full of pedals, and we basically plugged in and messed around. And there wasn't as many pedals as there are now. Obviously, it was a long time ago. But the one pedal that blew my mind instantly was the Afterneath. This is the new one, but it was the original one. And I'm always looking for weird effects and things like that, and I have so much outboard gear and kind of tend to set and forget outboard gear. And the beauty of pedals is that you can, when you process stuff through them, you're always manipulating them, and it really does come down to an instant performance as well. So I knew the Afterneath would be something that I would definitely use. So a couple weeks later, they were available, and I got one. And it's been on every record, honestly, on every record since then.
I mean, most recently, the thing I was surprised by is just seeing that it was used on the new Tool record, like one of the most anticipated records, and like downloaded songs the day it came out. And, seeing the engineer post it saying that it was used on the vocals and stuff on that. I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing, really.
In a situation where I'm just mixing a record, I pretty much do whatever the hell I want to do. I mean, you're either going to love it, you're going to hate it. I'm either going to get the job or I'm going to get fired. I honestly don't care. So it really does come down to, for me, pushing the envelope and creating sounds. So a lot of times when you present the song to the band, they either say, I like that effect or I hate that effect or whatever. So what I do love about pedals in general, when I'm tracking or producing something, is that the manipulation happens and gets recorded, so that fully inspires the performance as well. So in the case of, it's actually the only pedal that I brought to Arizona with me when I did the vocals on the last record. And I'd say 80% of the time, this pedal ends up being a post-production pedal for me. It's for me, I treat it like outboard gear. I mean, this is how I would normally do it anyway. Just grab and move. Now I've got foot control though. Maybe I should look. Maybe I don't care. I've bought 5 or 6 of these already and just given them to friends of mine, but I never thought about keeping one of them and running it in stereo so I can have 2. But then, see, I'm punching in and I'm recording and then I need 2 hands, and this is where the expression pedals are going to come in handy. So maybe I can turn myself into a drummer and use 2 expression pedals and 2 hands, and then I can be fully stereo.
So Afterneath came into my life when I was looking for a reverb pedal that could extend my voice for a longer time and could kind of make it sound like I'm in this big church. So I went to Guitar Center and just asked for a pedal that could do that, and the guy at Guitar Center recommended me the Afterneath pedal. So I sat with it on the floor at Guitar Center, and I fell in love, and I brought it home, and that was the first EarthQuaker pedal I got.
Just try, really, if the graphic, really, you'll see it somewhere else besides that ridiculous self-zoom, but it encapsulates what this thing is. It's like a real analogy of what this thing can do, this real cavernous, magical reverb, just echo in a cavern kind of vibe. So I've kind of probably used it what for most people have used it for, that thing for the most part.
Well, me and Matt, the singer of Caveman, we have a recording studio at our house where we're working on a new record. This has been great for everything. Like, we do it on acoustics when it just sounds magical. We do it on our synths, vocals, because you can really change it. It's not just, I love always sounding different and, having its own life, and it's important.
I just got the new one a week ago, so I haven't toured with this one yet, but I used to use the drag knob to kind of get this swoopy effect of going, woo! And it's really cool, especially with the voice, because when you're using that effect, people don't recognize that it's actually my voice. They're just like, what's that sound? And I love that I can decide when I want my voice to sound like a voice and when it can kind of camouflage and sound like something else. But with the new mode knob, there are more options now where I can set it to chromatic, I can set it to a major scale, a minor scale, and pentatonic scale. So I'm really interested to kind of jump more into that and be able to swoop between chord changes with the knob instead of playing it on my vocoder.
Must have been at the NAMM show, at EarthQuaker booth maybe, I don't know. I don't recall my first real experience with it until I had one myself. I'd been hearing about it, and it was just like this kind of ambient soundtrack in an effect pedal, and was just curious about it, I guess. And I certainly love delays and weird effects like that, so it seemed like something that I should play with.
It was kind of a unifying pedal between the people who liked our normal stuff and a lot of the more experimental stuff. It seemed like unanimously everybody was like, oh, that sounds really cool.
Well, it's cavernous. It can be large sounding, really open and unruly and chaotic, really. In a great way. I really sort of respond to how it can sort of just take a signal and really just kind of explode it into a bunch of different directions and make it into something that is, on one hand, just crazy and hard to manage, and on the other, really just sort of compelling in and of itself. You don't have to feed much into it in order to get a lot out of it. And I think that's sort of one of the strengths of the pedal, really.
Hi, my name is Stefan Fest, and I run a YouTube channel called The Pedal Zone, where I demo, pedals. And funny enough, the original Afterneath was actually the pedal that got me really into EarthQuaker devices 7 years ago or so. And I had encountered the Arpanoid, the Rainbow Machine, and the Dispatch Master a couple years before that, and I thought that they were really cool. But when I saw and heard the Afterneath, it was like, man, these guys and girls mean business. And I immediately went out and got an Afterneath after that, and it's been an ambient mainstay for me ever since. Luckily, this whole pedal demo endeavor has seen me work with EarthQuaker devices a bunch of times over the years now, and I've made demos for both the Afterneath V2 and the V3. And what's been obvious in both demos is the massive appeal of this pedal. Like, not only are they some of my most watched demos ever, which shows the huge and almost undying interest in this device, it's really a pedal that resonates with people out there, but it's also clear that it's a pedal that people are constantly seeking to learn more about because it's so deceptively deep and can produce such a vast array of tones. And with the new V3 and its expression and CV capabilities, this array of tones has only gotten much, much bigger. So my favorite way to use the new Afterneath is in octaves and fifths mode together with an expression pedal, where I, at the heel down position, have more of a granular-esque reverb where you can really hear the individual taps. Sounds something like this. And then at the toe up position, it's more of like a classic plate reverb. But it also lets me introduce these flurries of pitch shifting magic whenever I feel like it, and that's where the real fun begins. So something like this. Come on, how freaking cool is that? Oh man, I love this pedal, I seriously do.
So the V3 kind of takes the idea of the drag control and expands on it. So now there's 9 different ways that it can operate. It can operate just exactly how the Afterneath used to work, where you turn it and you get that like just kind of time bending sound. And then the second mode is the same thing, but there's a delayed reaction from when you turn the drag control to what happens. So it kind of stretches it out even further. Then you can control it with a CV out from a synthesizer, and it will match volt per octave. And then there's pentatonic scale, major scale, minor scale, chromatic. There's a chromatic scale, and then octaves and fifths, and then octaves. And then in addition to that, it now has tails. So when you turn it off, it will naturally decay. You can play over those decays, or if you don't like that, you can turn it off on power up.
I guess I'm going to start this off by taking a superficial side-by-side glance of the V3 versus an older version of the Afterneath pedal.
So other than the obvious graphical improvement here, looks like there's been a bit of knob reordering. I think the reflect and the drag knobs have done the old switcheroo. The drag knob is now in the middle on the V3, and there's a corresponding mode knob added. And I believe that the mode knob all the way to the left is basically the stock Afterneath reverb sound.
Hi, I'm Lisa Belladonna, and we're at Appalachian Recording.
in the Appalachian Mountains in the eastern United States. I would describe the Afterneath as a deep, lush, spacey pedal that sort of instigates playing with space, manipulating time and space. Obviously now with the updated version, you have lots of different possibility with the drag knob and the zones that it provides you. So if you're playing a chord, you can sort of change chords with it, or you can just create a really nice glissando of pitches and tones. It's just a really amazing way to just instigate other ideas. I like using the Afterneath with various instruments, and I like using it as a call and response to pitch-related action. So using things like percussive sounds, or if I'm going to sustain things like string sounds or flutes and stuff like that, I love to run it through the Afterneath and then manipulate that signal. I love to use it with Mellotron and taking more acoustic sounds that the Mellotron provides and then just shape-shifting them into some electronic space with the Afterneath. It's great for modular synthesizers. When you're up in the really higher frequencies, you're able to get these sort of light, feathery winds that are attached to sort of chimey sounds in the higher registers of synths. The Afterneath is great for playing to the space that you're in. And wherever you're at, whether you're in a recording studio or you're playing outdoors or any kind of space that you want to take and transform into music, I think the Afterneath instigates that.
I guess V2 to V3, the most striking difference for me is just that you have sort of added functionality. You know, I don't need to have my hands on the pedal at all times in order to kind of get it to do things that I find useful in the context of writing music or just kind of like developing a sound. Like I can kind of feed signals into it that can help shape it while I'm playing. So it's not just playing the pedal, but I'm actually I've got my hands on the instrument and I can still, you know, add expression to the pedal. So I don't know, as a sort of added feature between V2 and V3, I felt like that was a huge step forward. And then taking that even further from V3 to the module, I mean, just you know, expanding those parameters and kind of allowing you to explore a different subset of features and how to just kind of connect things in ways that are unique and interesting and make it do things that, like, I don't know, you wouldn't be able to really do and still play your instrument. I kind of feel like that was a massive leap forward.
we saw just a lot of synth players using the Afterneath, and we had, I had personally always gotten the question, like, when are you going to get into Eurorec? When are you going to make modules? And to be 100% honest, I wasn't into Eurorec at all through the entire development. Like, I understood it, but a lot of people at EarthQuaker were into it, and I kind of just gave the project off to Carl and Ben and Josh. And I worked with John during the development of it, but once it got to the point where I was like, okay, I really like all these things. It all sounds cool. You guys know all this stuff. Go with it. I laid out the panel, and that was pretty much it after that. And since it came out, I have gone way down the rabbit hole of modular synth. I really like working with John Sonnenberg. He's an electronics engineer at a local company in Akron called Circle Prime. And, an amazing musician. He creates all kinds of, crazy custom instruments for himself. And he's really a genius when it comes to that. It was a lot of fun just to show him, like, here's the things that I kind of work on and, like, hack this together. And, we play guitar through it. And, just to see his reaction to that and just see his wheels turning on things that, he could incorporate into it. And I mean, I trust him 100%. He's, every idea that he had for it was great. And he's, it was a lot of fun to work with him on it. I mean, he's 100% responsible for all of the different modes for the clock in there, so.
Before I worked at EarthQuaker, I had met him at a synthesizer meetup in Indiana. And so it was just this really kind of funny thing. I was like, I meet this guy, and it turns out, he's from Akron. And then at one point, we found out he worked for, Circle Prime, which was, related to Jim Mothersbaugh from Devo. And then they started working with us. And, so John and I have had a long relationship of music, outside of that. And he'd always been one that had be like, oh yeah, the Afterneath would be so cool.
At one point, Jamie said, and this is before EarthQuaker hired an engineer over there, Jamie said, what I really get a lot of requests for is some kind of control over the speed of the Afterneath. What could we do about that? And I started thinking about it, and I had already thought, about playing around with voltage control over those modules, over those pedals, because that's what I'm into. I like control over different parameters with voltage. And so I had some ideas about that. We had a meeting over at EarthQuaker Devices. There was about 10 or 12 of us in that conference room sitting around talking about all the features. And it was like, we just had so many ideas about it. And I remember sitting in the meeting thinking, like, there's a lot that they're adding to this pedal that is just almost too much. Like, you don't need attenuators and inverters on every single parameter. You don't need jacks for everything. It was becoming this monster that I just felt was going to be super cool, but make it really expensive and hard to build. So out of that meeting, though, I started working on the development of a IC that would help with the voltage control over the processor and how that works. And I built a prototype, and maybe we'd kind of talk back and forth about it. It'd come up in conversations from time to time. Yeah, we need to do this. Yeah, let's make a prototype. And then at one point, I had Jamie and Corey come over and see what I had done. And I think they were kind of like, I don't know if this is even a project anymore. I'm not sure
you know, what's going to happen with this. But when they heard my prototype and heard some of the things I was able to do with it, they're like, oh yeah, we need to do this. We need to get back on this. And then, you know, I kept on developing it. We started adding different modes. I already had maybe 6 modes in the code that did different scales and things. We started adding some other stages and different modes. And eventually I had this prototype here that I had built for myself. And this is just, it's voltage control over some of the parameters. And then there's some switches that do some other things. And this box is kind of what I did most of the rest of the demos with when I was showing EarthQuaker, the different modes, and developed different ideas with the voltage controlled Eurorack Afterneath. It basically is an identical box to this, except the Eurorack doesn't have as much control over the digital aspect, the EEPROM and some things. And it also, the Eurorack has the effects loop, the send and return, which this just had the input for voltage controls and the output. It did have a switch to cut the dry, just like on the Eurorack version. But other than that, it's pretty much the same box, you know.
I love drones, and I find myself writing to drones a lot. Maybe this is because I do a lot of work within the film industry, and I love kind of writing to a backdrop in a way. And so I will create these atmospheres using the Afterneath, and that will give me just basically a focal point to write around. And everything from kind of, you know, harmonious, quite pretty drones to stuff that's a little bit more aleatoric. I mean, I find it all really inspirational. So be able to use, you know, a module like Afterneath to create just these atmospheres. The atmospheres alone are already inspirational. It's a very unique reverb. I don't even think of it, to be honest, as a reverb, even though I know it is supposed to be based on a reverb, but it's really its own animal to me. And what I love about it in particular, I keep looking back at it because it's I have it hooked up right now, and I love the pitch shifting capabilities of it, and I can sequence those, which is something that's really unique to Modular. So what I have going on here, for instance, is I have a sequencer basically sequencing the drag function, and then my mode is set to be one of the modes that is basically, I believe it's like a minor scale or something like that. But if I just turn it on, you'll hear what it's doing. So this is my dry signal, and it's just playing a D. And then the Afterneath is then creating this cloud where, because of the sequencer, it's jumping between, what's D, so it's jumping between an E and a C, and it creates this bizarre cloud, which is a really, really nice thing to have. And, you know, if I really wanted to blow it out further and I brought up the reflections and the length, you create these really beautiful drones and pads, and that's my favorite use of the Afterneath right there in a nutshell.
Working in the studio especially with effects, I think you can sometimes lose people with some of the more esoteric stuff. But having something like the drag knob on the Afterneath really helps to just loop people back in and have them engage in a way that's like super tactile, super one-to-one. You turn the knob, you hear the pitch move. And to have that available like in different modes of quantization, so it can work in kind of any song. It doesn't have to be these total like pitch drops is really cool, I think. For this small size pedal to sound the way it does, it's just amazing to me.
I really like the patterns of movement, the patterns in motion, you know, the stuttering effects that you can kind of get out of it. I feel like they're these little digital wizards in a color cave that are just massaging your mind with this fractal warmth. It's on the one hand, you know, really kind of unnerving, and on the other, it's sort of satisfying.
The essence of music is that, you know, it's a music and a science, and I kind of feel like this pedal is encapturing like the kind of mad scientist aspect of creation, but also the very like abstract art aspect of creation. So I really enjoy making music with the Afterneath.
It's such its own sound. It's almost like, you know, 10,000 little tiny delays happening sporadically and in the right time in the right place. No other reverb can do what the Afterneath does.
This is unlike, seriously, unlike any other reverb I've ever heard. From the moment I heard it in my room, when it was slapped on a pedal board with 5 or 6 other pedals or 10 pedals, and those guys were demoing stuff, it was the one pedal that wasn't a set and forget pedal to me. It was definitely a reach down, turn a knob, what does this do? Holy shit, this creates some really crazy sounds.
The pedal itself, like the development of the pedal and the release of the pedal is a non-event. It was like after the fact.
Right.
We just keep selling a bunch of them, but I don't hear too much about it from people. Other than, like I said, oh, it's awesome.
It's just intoxicating. Let's see if I get a long length, but a tiny bit of mix. Yeah, check that out. That's another, maybe some high pitches. There it comes. Another loop-worthy cloud. See, I would have played a major sharp 5 chord over that resonant note. Anyway, whatever.